My name's Stephanie, this is Making Poor Decisions, and today we're making sake. Alright, so as I mentioned, today's video is going to be all about sake, or rice wine. But I think there's a big difference between sake and rice wine from what I understand. One is distilled and the other one isn't. But either way, we are going to be fermenting rice today. And it's a relatively simple process. And as you can see here, I already did most of the work before filming this video, because most of the work for right now is just boiling the rice. And if you don't know how to boil rice, I don't know what to tell you. But the rice that you need in order to make sake is very specific. You need round grain or sweet rice, glutenous sweet rice. The long grain rice is not going to be your friend for this process. You do need the short, rounder grains, glutenous rice, or the rice that they make mochi with. Anything else is not going to work. And the reason that it's not going to work is this particular type of rice has a lot of starch in it. And that's what we're going to need in order to create our drink. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, you don't make alcohol from starch. No, you don't. You make it from sugar. But rice, as it is, doesn't really have a lot or any sugar. So what we need to do is convert that starch to sugar. And we're going to do that by adding this rice leaven or koji spores, which are essentially just mold spores. Sounds kind of gross, I know, but that's the process. So what's going to happen is these spores here that I'm going to sprinkle over my rice now, they are going to start converting all of the lovely, lovely starches in this rice to sugar. And then yeast, wild yeast, or you can actually add for wine yeast to this if you really wanted to. I prefer using the wild yeast that's already in the world. They are going to start converting that starch into, that sugar that the koji spores just created into alcohol. So if you're following me along, rice has starch, koji spores turn starch into sugar, yeast turn sugar into alcohol. So it's a really cool process, but making sake itself is really, really simple. So as I mentioned, you're going to start with your glutinous rice or your short grain rice, boil that down, and let it sit to room temperature. Now, some people might tell you that you have to let the rice soak for 8 to 12 hours before you even boil it. I let mine soak for about 3 hours today. I've made sake before and I didn't let it soak for very long at all, maybe 30 minutes, and it still turned out really great. One thing that you absolutely do need to do, however, is wash your rice. And I'm not talking about with soap or anything like that. Just take your rice cups. I did 4 cups for this, by the way. I'm using a gallon fermenter in this video. I did 4 cups of rice and I rinsed it thoroughly until the water runs clear. So you pour the water in. It's usually like this milky white color to start. Wash it around, pour out the water, kind of rinse, repeat until the water is clear, or at least relatively clear. And oh, here we go. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Calcifer. We made it 3 videos before he made his appearance. All right, buddy. He is my brew master, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to just hang out over there, bud. So what I'm going to do now is, as you stare at Calcifer's booty, thank you, bud, I am going to put this rice into this fermenter. We have our 4 cups of glutinous rice mixed with our koji spores in our fermenter. Now, you might be thinking, hey, Steph, that's only about halfway full, and you're right. Because tomorrow, I'm going to be putting another 4 cups of just boiled rice into this fermenter to fill it up to the top. I'm not going to be adding any more water. I'm not going to be adding any more koji, because what this rice is going to be meant to do is to feed our little colony that we should have created. Now, next step is adding our water. And we just want just enough water in here, just a little bit at a time. actually don't want a lot in here at all. And that should be fine. That might even be too much. But you want to add just a little bit of water with just giving some room here at the top. I don't even know what I'm saying. Basically, you just add a little bit of water, because what's going to happen is the koji is going to start breaking down the rice, and the wild yeast is going to start breaking down the rice, and all the liquid that is already in the rice from it being cooked is going to seep out, and you're going to actually see the rice and the liquid start to separate, and what's on the bottom is what's essentially going to become our sake. So we don't want to over flood this too much. So now it's ready to be sealed. And all right, now I let it sit. Now you might not see too much fermentation happen in the first couple of days. That's pretty normal. So let's recap our process so far. First, I took 4 cups of glutenous rice, washed it, let it soak for a few hours. Then I boiled it. I cooked it as you would any other rice. After that, I let it sit out and come up to room temperature, and I did this by spreading it on a cookie sheet that has been lined with parchment paper. Once it was at room temperature, I spread over my koji spores, scooped this into a 1 gallon fermenter, wide mouth, because you don't want to do this with the regular fermenter. It can make your life so much more miserable. And then add just enough water where there's some rice sticking up over the water line. You don't want to have the water above where the rice is. Now tomorrow I'm going to be adding an additional 4 cups of cooked rice, and then we're going to let it sit for a week or 2. And you'll see by the next time I come back for the next part of this video, the rice should be sitting above the liquid, and you'll see this like kind of milky, creamy looking liquid at the bottom. At that point, we are going to take the rice off of the liquid, and we're going to let it ferment more and let it come to sake. Let it become sake, essentially. And sake is interesting because it's best enjoyed young. So with most wines or meads or even some beers, you have to let it age for a while. All of the sakes that I've made, well, I've only made 1 batch, but the best glass that I had was the freshest batch. Not that the other batches or the other bottles that I enjoyed weren't great, but I just remember the first bottle, the one that I enjoyed immediately, was just amazing. And it's a really, like I said, very simple process. So that's it. Check back in a couple of weeks where we put this into secondary, where we essentially take the rice off of the liquid and we let it ferment out. If you enjoyed this, please give me a like and a follow. If you want to learn how to make meads, I actually make a lot of meads on this channel as well. Well, this is only my 3rd video, but I will be making a lot of meads as well as ciders and beers. But I have 1 video out already that teaches you how to make a basic mead, and the next video after that teaches you how to make an acerglyn, which is essentially a mead also made with maple syrup. I should be about ready to put my basic mead into secondary probably sometime next week. It's still bubbling. I thought I was going to be able to do that today, but it's still going, so I'm letting her do what she wants to do, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.